Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Very first guest at the Pilot Podcast Studios, and a long time coming. So thanks very much for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule. I know I'll keep you busy sometimes. Sorry for the spam calls. But welcome to the show, and thanks very much for being here.
Dan, it's an absolute honor. Thank you very much for having me. I'm super excited to see where the Pilot Podcast goes, and I'm super excited to be the inaugural guest.
Yeah, I think this will be the one of a few podcasts in the future with you. But the reason we felt so important to have you on the show today, and it's something that's very important for me, and I think most pilots, Pilot Insure. What is Pilot Insure? What do you offer the general pilot community?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Dive right in.
Yeah, let's go for it. Dive right in.
Okay, cool. Pilot Insure is a financial services company. Okay, and I know that doesn't answer your question, because what does Pilot Insure offer the pilot community? And while Pilot Insure is a financial advisory firm that has access to products that it can then advise pilots on and sell to them. That's
Fantastic.
what it does.
Yeah.
What does it give is the question. What does it give to the pilot community? And the main thing that we give to the pilot community is peace of mind.
Elaborates. So peace of mind. So you say you offer a series of financial products to not, I suppose, not only the pilot community, but there's a broader client base which would be eligible for it. As we know, aviation is and always has been quite a volatile mistress. People say when it's good, it's great. When it's not so good, the going can get quite tough.
Correct.
So what product specifically does Pilot Insure offer the community that would bring someone like a professional airline pilot, for example, well-needed peace of mind?
Yeah. Our flagship product is loss of license. That's the one that we advise on the most. It's what we use as a sort of centerpiece or a keystone to what we do and what we offer the pilot population. You mentioned that we do have a broader client base. Absolutely. We are a financial advisory firm that can service anybody, okay, just like any ABC brokers down the road. However, we do all the due diligence and research and work to be able to take the products that are offered to the general public and tailor them and make sure that they cover a pilot in his or her actual need. And so while people often come to us and say, well, this policy looks exactly like my other one, you say, well, it does look like that on the surface, but what the work that's gone into it, making it actually respond when it needs to respond, and making sure that the policy is correct and doesn't just have, a superficial wording on it that doesn't do what it's supposed to do because, the underwriter didn't understand what type of flying you do. In a nutshell, we make sure that policy actually works for you. So yes, it's going to look the same as any other policy, but the underwriting, and when it comes to claim, the underwriting has been done right so that when it comes to a claim stage, that it actually responds and does what it says it's going to do.
Okay, well, it's interesting that you say that, because I'm sure lots of people listening to this have encountered this with any insurance product. You think you're covered, you pay the premium, it comes time to claim, and there's always something in the clause that disqualifies you from claiming. So I want to focus a bit more on that in a little bit. But before we continue down that line, Pilot Insure.
Yeah.
Highly specific.
Yeah.
There are a lot of policies out there offered by a lot of companies, as we mentioned earlier. First of all, why Pilot Insure? Why specifically the Pilot Group? And why are you so passionate about helping people in the aviation field?
Aviation was injected into my blood about 18 years ago. I don't come from an aviation family or background or anything like that. I was intrigued by a job opening that a recruitment agent brought to me that looked like I was told was selling aircraft. So I was like, of course, I want to sell airplanes.
A commission
Please
on that will be
sign me up.
great.
Exactly. And I was working in finance and some insurance at the time as a ripe old 23-year-old. And when I went for the screening interview, they said, it's aviation insurance, aircraft insurance. I was like, okay, well, at least I have some kind of background in insurance. Let's go and check out what the rest of the thing is, the job entails and what it looks like. And long story short, I got a job selling aircraft insurance. And within a very short time, I was completely in love with aviation, completely in love with the people, completely in love with the whole community, the industry, all that kind of stuff. And like, so much so that I still haven't got my license. I've only been in aviation for 18 years. So, don't rush me. I haven't got my license
Good things
yet.
take time.
Good things take time. But I've immersed myself in completely within aviation, like going to all the events. I remember my first event was a flippin' fly-in at Krugersdorp Airfield. And, the kind of fun that I had there and all that kind of stuff. So to cut a long story short, I was badly bitten by the aviation bug, and I loved being in the community. And then again, the commissions, even on selling short-term aircraft insurance, also weren't that bad. So I stuck around and made a good career of it. I then transitioned from short-term insurance, insuring assets, aircraft, all over Africa and the world. Spent a lot of time in Nigeria and all those places. But I transitioned out of asset insurance and into life insurance and financial wellness and financial advice. And before I did that, I'd already built up a relationship with a guy called Frans Smit, who is the founder of Pilot Insure. And this is all going to tie together shortly. We kind of got to know each other quite well. And when he heard that I'd exited the short-term insurance side, he immediately called me and said, come, we need to talk. You need to come and start selling Pilot Insure with me. I said, yeah, no, for sure. I just need to kind of explore a couple of other things. I was really looking to, build my own thing in a way.
Yeah, build your own brand, I
build my own
suppose.
brand, build my own assets, build my own business, et cetera, et cetera. And he was like, okay, well, I'll give you the space to bump your head a few times and go and do that. And I did. And I spent a year learning life insurance and relearning, because I'd actually studied finance at university before I got into short-term insurance. And so my just kind of rehashing and relearning the whole industry on the long-term and financial advice side. And so I spent a year doing that. And then I got in, and then when eventually I was like, had gone down a whole bunch of avenues, each one with a dead end or some kind of very big roadblock at the end of it, Frans said to me, are you ready? Do you want to come over? And I was like, absolutely, let's go. And so I've leveraged my entire network of aviators that I built up over the 9 years that I spent doing short-term insurance into the long-term side. I don't think that answers the question that you actually had, though. So let's start there.
That's great. It's giving us a great background into exactly how this thing's pulled together. But like you said, the aviation bug bit you. Why specifically the pilot, or I want to say pilot community? Aviation's it's a big community of people, and it's a huge machine of multifaceted, skilled people coming together to try and make this thing work. There's the air traffic controllers, people in the Met office, ground personnel. What about the community really draws you into it and gives you that drive to help them?
So many reasons. So many reasons. Let me tell you why. Let me start off by telling where Pilot Insure was actually conceptualized. Right?
Sure.
So Frans Smit founded Pilot Insure, and he started off as a Liberty tied agent, meaning that he was a broker for Liberty, couldn't sell any other products like Momentum. He wasn't independent. And Franz Smith did relatively well at that, and then decided he's going to go get his PPL. And went to Mossel Bay and started learning with Andre Middle at what is now Starlight. I don't know what it was back then, and started learning to fly. And then when you get into into a new community of people, as a financial advisor and sales guy, the first thing you start doing is, you start selling. It's who you are. Like, that's who we are. Like, I can walk into a room. I'm not trying to sell someone anything, and I promise you I'll walk out with a possible lead or a deal. Like, it happens. And so anyway, so Franz Smith gets into the pilot community down there and then starts looking at their life insurance and trying to like help them out and whatnot, and discovers that instructors are hopelessly badly insured. Commercial pilots, private pilots, anyone in aviation, their policy has massive limitations on it. And I'm talking a good 15 years ago now. And has massive limitations on it. So he was like, no, this is nonsense. We have to fix this. There must be a way to fix it, right? There must be a commercial, viable commercial solution to insuring pilots and making it work. And so he spent the next 2 or 3 years researching and figuring out how to build a product that a pilot could actually use. And when he started out, the only insurance product that was actually worth anything was the one that was offered on a group level to SAA pilots.
So they were the only ones covered?
Only ones, covered properly.
In the country?
In the country, that had a proper loss of license, that wasn't just an impairment product, that wasn't completely, had multiple exclusions on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's many ways a pilot's policy can be buggered, and it still happens today.
For sure.
Which is our mission to fix. And so this is where it started, is that he spent the next 3 years figuring out how to possibly build a product that didn't just cover SAA guys and girls, that was able to be given to a nationwide or at the time, a one-time pilot or at least someone else in the airline industry that wasn't SAA.
Yeah.
And so he figured it out, did a business case, and managed to convince the actuaries and the underwriters, et cetera, and actually got it right with Liberty Life. And then and Liberty was like, okay, cool, let's start looking at other pilots other than just SAA. And so he went obviously full ball into that and trying to get the critical mass to be able to convince Liberty, the underwriters, the reassurers, and the actuaries that this is now still a viable option. And give it another year or two, figured out that, only having one arrow in your quiver, i.e. just one insurance company offering as a tied agent, is also, again, very limiting, because now the other insurance companies are seeing what's happening and mimicking and copying what this product looks like. Are you following?
Yeah.
And so now he's coming up, but almost creating his own competition by, letting the other insurance companies copy the wording of loss of license. And now they're like Old Mutual, Momentum, all of them start handing out this or offering these policies. And so, and again, as any true entrepreneur would be, feeling the constraint of only having one arrow in your quiver, and losing clients to other insurance companies and other brokers
On something that he effectively conceptualized.
Exactly right. And pulled out and had to become independent to be able to offer the same products that the other guys are competing with him with to his base of clients.
Sure.
Do you understand? So and that's where Pilot Insure was born, was to say, let's do that for as many pilots as possible. Firstly, out of interest, then a little bit of necessity, pulling together, and then from there, again, we haven't been able to cover any contract pilots at this time. We haven't been able to cover instructors properly. We haven't been able to cover like a multitude, all the rotor wing guys. Still, it's a bugger.
Still, no ways.
Just airline. And slowly over the years, as we've been able to build the critical mass in those different sectors of aviation, we've been able to convince the underwriters to say, okay, a guy flying a 1900 in Algeria or one of those. We get it right. Embraer 120 in Gabon. We can now start offering those guys off loss of license. Then it extends to, okay, cool, but what about the oaks bombing around in King Air 350s and 200s and caravans? Yeah, that's still a big risk in their eyes. They don't have the data. They don't know. Fine, we'll get the data. We'll do what we can, get information to be able to build that critical mass again so that the insurance pool for aviators is big enough that we can then offer it to these different guys. As of today, we can now offer insurance to any commercial pilot. Proper loss of license insurance from airline all the way down to instructor, to microlight instructor.
Really?
Yeah, like almost all the way down to NPL instructor. So, and everything in between. So, your lets in flipping from Laos to
Mauritius or Madagascar. That's
Madagascar,
the guys operating there.
Where else? Benin, flipping Nigeria. I know that they operate in all sorts of great places. We can offer it to them in the DRC, no problem. Flying on a Let, which again was like a completely misunderstood airplane, thinking that it's got a terrible record. We did the work to go and actually speak to the AMOs of those Lets and give us the actual stats of what it looks like the last 25 years. What happened on the Lets? Lets are more safe than Twin Otters and 1900s in the last 25 years because of the engine conversions. I don't know if you know the airplanes, but it's a Let 410 or 420 upgrade that they can do. Safer than a Twin Otter, safer than a 1900.
Unreal. And you guys... So you guys went out just to the AMOs, or how do you go about building a case study and gathering this data? What actually goes into it? So new airplane comes to the market. These guys are flying Afghanistan, XYZ charter company, pool of 20 guys. They're desperate for insurance. You want to help them. They come to you. What groundwork do you have to put in place to make this happen?
I was lucky because I was doing insurance for aircraft for so long. I was very versed in building a business case or an insurance case. I know what the underwriters are looking for in convincing them to insure an airplane. So, who does the maintenance? Where does who signs it out? Yes, an AMO can be doing it, but who's the credentials of that lead AMO at that MRO? Where is it actually going? Break down the hours. I want to see 70 hours flown in a month by this airplane. Where did it go? Give me the logbooks. I want to see all of this stuff. So, that's something that I used to do for aircraft insurance. And so we've just translated that skill into basically then just working with the short-term insurance guys and saying, well, I know you've done all this due diligence. Help us to insure the pilots that are flying your aircraft that you insure. And so in many ways, we've collaborated with the other short-term brokers to say, give us information, give us contacts, because I was in one area and then I know the other brokers that did well for the other contract players. And so I went to all of them and said, give us your data because we want to help your pilots. And they were like, oh, no problem. And so building that case is, again, relationships, knowing what data to ask for, and then actually presenting it to the underwriter that it makes sense to them. Because an underwriter will insure anything and if it makes sense.
And if they have the data to back it up.
If it makes sense, they've got the data to back it up, and they know that they can sustain an insurance product in this thing. And 90% of the time, the reason that people can't get insurance in certain things is just because they don't have the data. And in some cases, yes, put an airplane in Iran right now, put an airplane in Syria, North Korea.
What about Afghan? A lot of people were operating there recently. Still okay?
Afghan's fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Hectic.
So put an airplane in a blacklisted place, there is no insurance premium you can charge for that pilot or that airplane or whatever. That'll make it viable. As soon as you can prove viability, boom, we'll be able to insure you, no problem. And viability is not just now, it's obviously sustainably into the future, which I'll get to how we also navigated the COVID and loss of license debacle, where we actually weren't able to insure any new pilots during most of COVID because the insurance companies pulled the product because it just didn't make sense. They didn't have the data. They didn't know if this COVID thing
where this whole thing was going.
Disastrous. And
also where the market was going to go, because the market was so dead at that stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it was stressful. I lost my job during COVID.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Like it happened to affect a lot of people in industry and the world in general.
Huge
So I
amounts.
suppose IT guys were doing okay, but I mean,
Yeah.
everybody else, no one knew it was going to happen. When's the next wave of COVID going to be? Is it going to be severe? So that's understandable.
Yeah.
But now, I was insured at a very young age. I had disability cover. I thought that was great. Anything happened to me, I'm covered. Now this loss of licensing comes up. Just for people listening that may have disability cover and think they're covered, but not necessarily loss of license, how do you differentiate between the two of them? Surely they're the same thing, invariably.
They look the same. They say the same thing on your policy wording, but there's fine print, fine skrif. Excuse my Afrikaans, but there's always fine print, and you need to know what that fine print says. Okay, and I've got a beautiful presentation that I put together. Yours truly. Just kidding, but it works really well, and it's easy for people to understand. In that, I show you what a disability graph looks like and how disability claims are rated. Okay, and for all disability claims, and I'll give you the gist of it now, is that there's very severe claims. Let's call them category A, and then B, C, and D, moving to least severe or less severe. And a category D claim is a claim that's severe enough to let you just not do your own work. A disability or an illness that stops you from doing your own job.
I bumped my head, I have amnesia.
Correct.
Would that fall under that?
That would be
I
that.
can still
You can
walk around,
you
do
can
my
do a million
thing.
other jobs.
I just don't remember who my wife is.
Exactly. So something slightly not severe, not a severe disability, but something that's just severe enough to stop you from doing your work. Okay, that's a category D type claim.
For sure.
All right, and then it's category C is something that'll stop you from doing your work and anything else in your industry or a similar occupation. Okay, what could be deemed as a similar occupation. And then a category B or an A claim is one where you're severely physically or mentally impaired and you can't really do any work. Okay, so that's the broad outline of it. And that's disability. And so for all other occupations, most of them get all of that category A, B, C, and D cover, no problem. Done. It's all good. Easy to underwrite, simple. For pilots, you'll get given something that looks like that, but on the back end of your policy, it'll say something like category C and D claims are excluded for you as a commercial pilot because of your occupation. And it's not just commercial pilots, commercial divers, some ATCs. There's a bunch of them that just don't qualify for a C and D claim.
So I bumped my head. Commercial pilot, think I'm covered. Say, for example, I go skateboarding, fall off my skateboard, knock my head. I go out for a bit. They open me up because the brain bleed, sort it out, stitch me up. I feel fine. A month later, that's it.
Yeah.
I can't work
Yeah.
in my field. I can't get an income.
No.
But in the insurer's eyes, hey, you still okay to work. Like you can go. You bumped your head, fine.
Yeah. You're not medically or physically or mentally impaired. You can still do. You can still brush your teeth, clean yourself, feed yourself, walk, talk, drive, all those things. Sorry, so the level of your impairment is still at a category D or C. So because you're a commercial pilot, most insurance companies won't cover that. And I know that the insurance company knows what I'm talking about and who they are.
Yeah.
And it's not just true for them. It's true for all insurance companies. It's just that they actually put it out in a very easy to understand way. And so that's where category A, B, C, and D, that's a full disability. And then depending on which insurance company you use and how good your broker is and how good their negotiation skills are, will you get all four categories or the full comprehensive range, or will they likely exclude the ones that actually would have loss of license included in them? And so you've got to know that when you get your insurance policy, that the whole benefit is completely comprehensive. And so all the insurance companies will say something like that, but they won't have the same wording as categories A, B, C, and D. They'll have different wording, but it really means the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the difference, and even a seasoned broker who's done a couple of pilots, not me, like someone else who maybe has done a couple of pilots, still won't be able to see the difference, or may still be bamboozled into thinking that this is a comprehensive policy when it's actually not. And it's very important to know for an absolute fact. Ask the question of your broker, not just your broker, your underwriter. Ask your broker to ask the underwriter, will this pay out if I lose my medical?
So DC claims is what you're saying. Category D and category C, are they included?
Yeah.
So that's effectively what the difference is.
Yeah.
So they'll say Cat CD not covered. So the onus is on you to make sure that it is. And I suppose that's where your product is unique, in that you're offering disability cover, but it covers, if I understand correctly, Cat C and Cat D.
Correct. So just to clarify, we don't have our own product as yet.
Sure.
So we will source you a product that has all of that level of coverage. And again, it's not going to be, it may not be from a specific insurer. It could be from any insurer, and it's going to be the characteristics of category A, B, C, and D. I'm going to give you something that gives you a full comprehensive range of benefits. It's not always going to be like, if you're with an Old Mutual and you ask them for what is Cat C or D included in my claim, they're going to be like, no, we don't have those categories. So you need to ask them, and again, like knowing what question to ask which underwriter, again, comes down to expertise of, time in the seat that we've had to box these types of claims. And
so I suppose that's where you come in.
Yeah.
That's where you would be asking those questions. So I wouldn't even know what question to ask, to be honest with you.
Correct.
I thought I was covered when I was 18, come to age of 30. Guess what? You're actually not. Big shock to me. And I've been paying that for like the past 12 years of my life on my instructor salary for a large portion of it, which didn't have a lot of, and found out that you're not covered.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing. I come to you, Dev. I thought I was covered. I'm not covered. I want to get in pilot insurance cover. 1900 operator, perfect example.
Okay.
What is the process in order to ensure that I'm covered? What do you need from me, and what's the starting point? Just take us through that journey.
Starting point is information gathering. So let me take a step back. We'll follow the same financial advice steps that any financial advisor will do. Okay. And that financial process is clearly defined as 6 major steps. I should be able to name them all for you. The first one is obviously an introduction. Second one is intro information gathering. The second one is product sourcing. The next one is product presentation and figuring out which one's the right one. The last one is quantifying exactly which one it is, how much you need of each one. And then the last step is implementation. And then following that is obviously after sales service and ongoing maintenance of the policy. Okay. We're going to follow that same process as any financial advisor out there. However, obviously within each step of that process, we know which questions to ask and of what. Okay, so you come to me, you want insurance. Let's have a look at what you've got, and let's have a look at your current situation. So I'll ask you a number of questions, and that will be able to help me draw a picture of exactly where you are, debt-wise, family-wise, career-wise, all those kinds of things, health-wise, etc. I'll do a bit of pre-screening to check how we're looking. And then I'll use that information to build up a actual financial needs analysis, which actually quantifies me to the cent of how much life insurance you probably need, how much disability lump sum / loss of license lump sum cover you need, how much income protection you qualify for, and how much dread disease cover you get. And so those 4 pillars within a policy have to be calculated for each one. And I've got a good number of questions that won't take you long to answer, that I'll be able to give you a very accurate picture of exactly where you stand. And then that process is obviously done on a collaborative level. So I'll ask you for information, you give it to me. I build my little proposal out and risk profile for you. And then I'll come and sit with you and we'll go through it together. And you can tell me, no, that's not right. I actually have this much debt or less debt, or I'm expecting another kid, or blah, blah, blah. So we'll work a nice collaborative effort to get that picture exactly accurate. And then once we've got the picture accurate, then we can talk about, okay, cool. The actual product that you need has to have A, B, C, D categories, loss of license, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously we figure out what product you need. I know what it is, but just kind of explain the differences to you. And then we figure out like, what can you actually afford? Because that's always a very different thing. Sometimes people need a policy this big, but they can only afford a policy this big. And that's also then where it comes into being able to advise, like, do you just take the life cover because you can only afford this much? Or do you just take any one of those benefits? Or do you take a spread of those benefits that gives you kind of a wider net of claimability in the event of something happening? So those are questions that we'll work out together as a collaborative effort.
So you tailor the product to that specific individual risk profile. Now, you've mentioned debt. Now, I know some people listening to this will be like, oof, I had a bad business deal or bought a property I probably shouldn't have. It's not working out. Will that disqualify me from getting cover?
Yeah.
So how does debt factor into it? And will it affect you trying to get loss of license cover or any kind of disability cover?
So no. So you doesn't matter how much debt you have. It really just comes down to affordability of the policy. And again, we don't check to see. We're not like a bank. We're not forwarding you a line of credit that you have to service on a monthly basis. We're telling you, this is the cover that you need. This is the lump sum or however much you need. This is the premium to afford it. I'm going to check your budget. I'm going to see. I want to have a look and see how affordable this is going to be for you. I'd hate to, we don't want to put you into a policy that is not sustainable for you on the long term. That's pointless. So really, it's just like, can you afford it? Yes or no? Can you afford the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 rand a month premium? Yes. Okay, great. Then that's what it's going to be. And this is what it's going to be looking like next year, the year after, et cetera, et cetera.
Are there any things that would disqualify someone from, saying, getting medical cover? And I know pilots, for example, are very protective over their medicals.
Yeah.
It's something that's fiercely guarded individually because, our careers ride on that kind of thing. So let's say someone has ear surgery 5 years ago and now comes to them wanting to get loss of license cover. How does that kind of thing factor into it? And what is the expectation from the insurer, from the applicant, in terms of what they need to provide?
Gotcha. So yes, there are a few things that can exclude someone from qualifying for the cover. And that is usually a pre-existing condition. Okay. And some pre-existing conditions will disqualify you from getting any cover. Okay. So let's say it was quite a severe illness of some kind and maybe multiple of them. Maybe you had a stroke and a heart attack and a cancer in the past. You've recovered fully from it. You've got your class 1 medical back. An insurance company is going to look at you and go,
Yeah.
There's too many things happening here. There's too much of a risk. Our stats say when anyone has a combination, even one or two of those things, the chances of it coming back are like 60%.
So they're just merely looking at your scatter pattern, your risk profile, in terms of you have 1 + 1 + 1, we can't cover you.
Yeah. So they are. There's a couple, and different insurers will have different rules for it. So they'll say combination of cholesterol, hypertension, and whatever, like Alzheimer's in the family, something like that. Like even your hereditary,
the things that you have
even your hereditary stuff can have a big influence on the type of cover that you'll qualify for. And so, like I said, some things, and it differs from insurer to insurer, will disqualify you where they'll just say, we're not covering that. Total decline. There's no premium that they want to charge that will cover you, and that will make sense for them to cover you.
Okay.
Yeah. I know it sounds harsh, but I also want to explain shortly of why it's important that there are these types of exclusions or declines from insurance companies.
Sure.
And very quickly, I'll tell you now. Basically, an insurance company has to be around. It has to be sustainable. And so if it was just taking on any kind of risk and definitely knowing that it's definitely going to pay a claim on all of its risk, or at least a big enough portion of of the clients, the business becomes unsustainable. And so therefore it's going to fold, and then nobody can have insurance.
Yeah.
So we need
They're going to make
have
sure that they have more money coming in and effectively they have going out to ensure
Correct.
they're profitable.
They've got to provide the jobs to all the administrators. They've got to buy their insurance on a wholesale level from the reinsurer. They've got to make sure that they actually stick around to be able to provide insurance to others. So, I know people come to me and they're like, yeah, but insurers are just in it for the money. Yeah.
Well, that's
What are
why
you in it
everybody's in
for?
business.
What are you in it for, Unless you're working for the UN and, refugees and, you don't want to take a salary for it, or Médecins Sans Frontières, sure. But insurance companies are in it for the money, absolutely. But they have to be around to be able to pay claims. And so the way they mitigate risk to be able to ensure profitability and sustainability is to not pay claims that they have a high chance, or not take on cover where they have a high chance of paying out the claim.
So, someone's going to ask this question, so I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
Because I know how people think.
Yeah.
I had my ear surgery 8 years ago, before getting into aviation. Class 1 medical, bang. Everything runs seamlessly. I've been flying, no issues, 8 years. I get my medical cover. They'll ask me, have you had any surgeries in the past, whatever, 10 years? You go, no, I'm fine. Everything's lacquer. It's not an issue anymore, so why would it be an issue now? Don't disclose it. Sign the form, bang, get hit by a car. Am I going to get paid out? And if I hadn't disclosed it, how would they know?
Will you get paid out? The question here is for an unrelated pre-existing condition to what happened. Okay.